Good afternoon and welcome to my Facebook Live. I'm still trying to sort out a little bit of what we're doing today, but welcome to my craft room. We're going to play with a stamp set that I've got sitting here on the side of my work area. Every time I buy a new stamp set, I pile them up next to my work area here in front of me, and I'm just playing with some dies here while I'm talking to you, and they're the ones that I want to play with next. So I sort of have this pile of about 8 stamp sets and dies sitting here, and some of them I've already used, so I just have to put away. Some of them I'm still trying to work out what I want to do with them. But as I'm working through them in my lives, they go away behind me in a storage unit. So what I've got here to play with today, let me just pop my camera down. Hi, Glenda. How are you? And there's someone else there again. It's just up as a Facebook user. Not quite sure who it is because I haven't got a name. I'm not quite sure if it's Shelley because she's in New Zealand, I thought. But anyway, let me just turn this to my desk. But welcome, please say hello, please leave a comment, let me know if you're new here on my channel, let me know where you're from, because it's always great to say hello to new people. So this is Hey Chuck, and this is the first time I've played with it today. I've got another card I'm thinking of doing with it over the weekend, which I'll put up on my blog next week, but anyway, that's something completely different. But today we're going to play with it for the first time. So I've done a little bit of stamping, I've played a little bit with colors, I'm playing a little bit with the dies, and we're going to see what we come up with. So as I said, this is just all a bit of an experiment, and let's see what we do. So with the Hey Chuck, you've got all these great stamp sets. Over the last few years, Stampin' Up have brought out a whole range of stamps with this chicken theme, and I'm wishing now I had kept them. I got rid of every single one of them I had. I love them every year. I don't know whether I bought last year's, but the year before or a couple of years before that, I bought those and had a lot of fun with them, colouring them in. So this time I thought, okay, I'm getting it with the dies. So you've got this beautiful stamp set, and it's got a fence, it's got a skateboard, you've got a cake, and you've got some great sentiments like you rule the roost, rise and shine, it's your birthday, you've got something to crow about. But it also has these fantastic dies. You've got the dies to cut out each of these chickens and your fence and your skateboard, and you've got your cake. But you also have a few extras, and some of these extras are a sun, a wind. Oh golly, my brain is just really gone lately. To tell you which direction the winds are blowing in. So I've got one of those. I've already pre-cut them, and they've gone walkabout. No, they haven't. They're right here. So you've got those. I'm just wondering what else is there. I think you've got a few that cuts out. Yeah, that's about it. So you can cut out the skateboard, you can die cut the skateboard, you can die cut the cake, you can die cut the 4 chooks and the fence, and then you've got the sun and the wind vane. Thank you very much, Glenda. Oh, what would I do without you guys to help me? Okay. I don't know whether it's I'm getting old and getting forgetful, or I never said my brain never worked real well anyway, but anyway, it's just, yeah, I can remember lots of things, but when it comes down to names of things lately, I am struggling. But I'm also using frames from the, let me grab it, and so I can tell you, I've got the deckled rectangle frames, which I've already cut out a white piece for, and I've got some basic borders which I'm thinking of doing some clouds with, and with the blending brush. I've also pulled out 2 tags from the Stylish Shapes, because I sort of got this idea from a few different pictures I've seen on Pinterest. So I'm sort of taking ideas from a few other people and maybe throwing in a few of my own and having a bit of a play. So I've already cut out a few things. This piece I'm not sure about yet. I've got another piece here. So we'll get onto that piece a little bit later on. I'm using the colours I'm using here is Parakeet Party. Let me double check. I've got Crushed Curry, Parakeet Party. No, sorry, Granny Apple Green. I've got the Crushed Parakeet Party in my inks. I have got this one here is, sorry, Orchid Oasis for my card base. I've got Starry Sky to create some clouds with, some sky and some clouds. So we're going to do that in a little while. But the first things I want to do is some colouring in. So I've already played a little bit. And these are the colours I've got here to use. Yeah, I usually do have too much on my mind, Glenda. And hay fever. I have never suffered hay fever like I'm suffering it at the moment. Never had hay fever as a kid, but yeah, there's with the wattle coming out and everything. It's just really mucking me around. I'm just sort of so blocked up and so sort of, yeah. I just feel like my eyes are falling out of my head at the moment, which is really like to tell you how not I suffered from hay fever when my husband and I got married years ago. We got married in August, and I wore wattle in my hair. I don't know why I wore wattle in my hair because my husband suffers from hay fever. But anyway, I wanted wattle in my hair. I had wattle in my hair. Now, I don't think I could even be around wattle. I'd be sneezing the living daylights out of it. So I'm going to put down my forgetfulness just to being so blocked up and congested. And, yeah, it's just been one of those months. I can't wait for, I say spring hasn't even really started yet. So, yeah. Hi, Anne. Thank you for joining. Okay, so these are the colours I'm going to use. Daffodil Delight, Wild Wheat, Fresh Freesia, Cajun Craze, Poppy Parade, maybe the Blackberry Bliss, Orchid Oasis, Starry Sky, and then I've got Crumb Cake, and I've got the Bronze in the blends. So I've already done a little bit of colouring in because, as I said, I'm going to make another card using these. So I've already coloured in sort of to play with my colours, but I'm going to do them twice just so that I can show you what we're doing. So I'm going to start off with my fence. And my fence, we're using the Cajun Craze and the Bronze. Let me find my Bronze. There we go. So I like to use my fine tip because the images are quite small. If you're doing bigger images, then I would use my brush tip. But I do know my brush tip on my Crumb Cake is getting a little bit worn out, but that's okay because I'm going to use the fine tip anyway. And I like to start with laying down my light colours first. So I'm going with the light one, and I'm just going to colour this whole area in. I'm not worrying about white spaces. I am sort of flicking it off towards the bottom down here because I don't know how the die cuts it at the bottom, and I don't want it just to finish off in a straight line. So just flicking it a little bit off towards the bottom there. I've stamped my fence twice because what I want to do is use two of them side by side. And I'm just laying down quite a bit of this. And I'm going to do the same, flick off my edges at those side panels of the fence as well. Now, they do say when you're using things like Copic to make sure that you have enough colour that when you're using your when you put down your first colour, to put down enough. And this is why I think, because I did a bit of training through Copic many years back, but till it saturates through. And I think that helps with your blending because you're working with a wet surface. Now, to be able to keep this wet, you only do work with a small area at a time. So I'm going to do the first part of my fence and then I'm going to do the bottom part. Now I'm not worrying too much about my colouring in. I'm not being pedantic about it. All I want to do is just get some colour down. So now I'm going to come in with the dark and just put a little bit of dark in, mainly following the lines that Stampin' Up have given us. A bit across the top there. Again, just flicking it out at the bottom. Same here on the side, on these, just following these lines. And then I'm going to come in with my bronze and just add a little bit more depth. And add a little bit more shading in there. I'm not spending too much time with this because it is a quick process. You don't want to be spending huge amounts of time with this. We're just trying to get it coloured. Now I'm going to come back in with my light again and just blend all those colours together with the light. And then we're just going to repeat the same thing again on the bottom down here. I think I'm going to be buying some more of the crumb cake blends. I think I'm running out. So what's everybody been up to? What are you up to for this weekend? You got anything exciting happening? Geez, I'm almost run this down dry. Hope I get this all done. Anyone going anywhere exciting? Doing anything exciting? We're all pretty quiet. Oops, we don't want to do that one again. We just want to do this one. Let's hope I can get enough out of that crumb cake just to finish this off. Okay, so there's our fence. We have the Craft Alive in Rockhampton, so I guess I'll be having a spending spree. Or I haven't been to a Craft Alive for ages. I'd love to go to one again. But I have to travel down to Wollongong or when they're on in Canberra, which is not too bad, but it's just it's a long way to go by myself. Okay, so the colours I'm going to do my chook in is going to be Delightful Delight and Wild Wheat. And then I'm going to put the Fresh Freesia in his crown on his head and his tail. Now, this one here, I use the Blackberry Bliss on the edges of his feathers, but I'm sort of wondering whether I might go Starry Sky. So what I might do is I'll colour this one with the Starry Sky, and then we'll make a choice to whether we use this one or whether we're going to use this one. So, and I've used Cajun Craze for his beak and his feet, and then the Poppy Parade Light for his tongue and I don't know what you call that little bit that hangs down the side of either side of their cheeks. But anyway, that's the colours I thought we'd play with and see how we go. So is there anything special at Craft Alive you want to see? So I'm going to start with my Daffodil Delight. So I've got my light and dark there. Again, same as before, I'm going to start with my light, and I'm just going to colour in his body and his wings. Now these are quite crazy chickens, so you really could use whatever colours you want. Chickens or roosters, and probably they're more roosters than chickens, I suppose. But if you have a look at chooks, they've got some most beautiful colours in them, so you could really go to town in some of the colours that you want to use. Now I'm just highlighting some of these areas here, putting a little bit underneath his neck, a little bit there, and on the tops of his legs there. And then I'm going to come in with my wild wheat, and I've got both light and dark in that as well. So this is my light wild wheat, and I'm going to put a few highlights in here, again around there. So I'm really just sort of going over the areas that I went with the dark Daffodil Delight. And now I'm going to come back in again and blend it all with that light Daffodil Delight. Now I'm also going to do his neck. In the Daffodil Delight, but I'm not using the dark. I'm just going to come straight in with the wild wheat. Now I'm going to use the light one. Come back in with my dark and just sort of do a little bit more shading in around there, and I just want to put a little bit more in the tips of some of his feathers. And then come back in with that light, and you just flick that colour down. Okay, so that's that part. Now let me get rid of these out of my road. So as I said, I'm going to use the light Cajun Craze for his legs. Just getting rid of all the bits I know that I'm doing. Light Cajun Craze in his beak. But then I'm going to bring in the dark Cajun Craze and do the inside of his beak. Just put a little bit there on his legs, not too much. I'm not worrying too much about all the shading and everything with very, very small areas. And then we've got our real red, not real red, Poppy Parade. And I also used the dark wild wheat just to do his eyelid. I don't think I used the dark in that one, but I'm just going to put a bit of the dark in there. Now, the tail feathers. So I've got, that's the Blackberry Bliss. I've got the light and dark Fresh Freesia. That's Blackberry Bliss. And then I've got the light Orchid Oasis, and I've got the light Starry Sky. So they're the colours I'm thinking of going with. So I'm going to start with my light Freesia. You haven't had one since COVID. I think there's been one down here. I don't think there's been one in Wollongong, though. I'm not quite sure. Or was in the main part of Wollongong, because usually when they've had them in the past, they've been not in Wollongong centre, but sort of out in one of the other suburbs outside of Wollongong, sort of really halfway between here and Wollongong. Actually, I'm not going to worry about that part there just yet. I just want to work on this area while we've got the ink fresh. So I'm going to colour all of that. I'm going to come in with my orchid. Now this is just a light. And again, I'm just sort of starting from the tip of those feathers and going down. Probably going down a little bit more than I was planning to, but that's okay. I'm going to come back in with a bit of dark and blend those in. That's the dark fresh freesia I'm using at the moment. And this is the Starry Sky. So just really want to put it into the tips. It's a light Starry Sky, I should say. Again, I'm just going to come in with the light fresh freesia and just go over the whole lot and just blend that all in. Okay, so let's just do this part. So then we're going to come in again with our light orchid. Don't want to come in down too far because otherwise we're going to lose that fresh freesia. Then we've got the light sky. And I know what I didn't do. Come in with a dark fresh freesia and just sort of blend that in just a little bit more. Okay, so there's our two chickens in our two different colorways. I'm just going to grab a tissue, sorry, and have a think and tell me which one you like better. I'll bring it up to the camera for you. So we've got this one with the Blackberry Bliss, and then we've got this one with the Starry Sky. Don't know whether that might be, just get that light is flickering. So we've got to choose which one, that one or that one. So we're going to go 1. That one is going to be 1, and that one's going to be 2. So do we use 1 or 2? Help me, folks. If I choose and they're stuck with that, come on, Glenda. Come on, Anne. Any ideas? Which do you prefer? So we're going to go on to those colours. So I'm going to cut up the middle of this. So we're going to either go on 1 or 2. Okay, have a think about it, and I'm going to start doing some colouring onto my piece of white here that I've already pre-cut. Okay, Glenda says 2. Facebook user says 1. Come on, we've got 1 for each so far. The next person who gives me a number is the one that we're going to use, 1 or 2. I'm not making the choice. You guys are. Okay. So here's my mask for my sky. Don't want to lose that. Right, die pieces everywhere here. And I've got my Starry Sky here. That's you, Linny. Okay. Come on, I still need to know 1 or 2. I got 1 vote for 1 and 1 vote for 2. What I'm doing here is I've got my blending brush here. I've got some Starry Sky, and I've cut a template using the basic border dies. And I'm actually just going to keep this and use this for lots of different things. So all I'm going to do is just run across this and get a bit of colour on there. I did the same sort of thing a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know where that bit of black came from. Anyway. You want to just move it around and get different. You don't want the same shape sort of coming all the time. Angle it a little bit. Make sure you brush a bit off before you start. And I'm not trying not to put it on too dark. I do want to put it on the edges a little bit darker, but not so dark in the middle, because I do want to have these clouds all coming down. No one's told me yet which one we're using. Taking this down quite a way. Guys, you got to help me out. Can't leave all the decisions to me. Life becomes too hard when I've got to make all the decisions. Okay. Might just put just a little bit more. Just want to make sure that I'm well covered here. And I'm just going to use whatever ink I've got left in my brush. Go with 1. Okay, I'm going. Glenda, you've changed your mind. That's okay. Okay, we're going with 1. So that's the one. So that's the one I used the Blueberry Bliss on. That's fine. Okay, so we've done lots of clouds on there. They actually look pretty good, I think. Okay, so next thing is, I was thinking of, now this piece is not big enough. I've got to redo it. But I was thinking of actually, instead of colouring this in just all with green, is cutting another piece and tearing it to form my grass. Okay, so we're going to see how that, but I need it to be a bit deeper. So let me get rid of my ink. I've got some, what did we say this was? Granny apple green. So I've got that. Let's put those over there, and I've got my sheen here. Now I'm just cutting. I haven't cut this quite deep enough, but that's okay because I'm going to tear it. So I'm going to pop that into there. Die cut that. So that's also using that beveled edge die. My desk is getting crowded and crowded. It's time for another clean up. So we're going to cut that one. So this piece is going to go, oh, you wouldn't believe what I've done. I've cut it with my die going in the opposite direction. That's okay. Let's just do that bit again, and we'll just grab another piece of cardstock. Let me see, is that piece? Nope. And this time I might see if I can cut the whole piece out. We've got a different shape top and bottom, and what I've done is I've not checked which piece I'm using, the top or bottom piece. So I've got a slightly different shape. When you don't want to overlay a die cut pieces, you want to make sure that they're both cut in the same direction. So let's do that again. That's okay, nothing will go to waste. We'll just use that piece for something else. Let's make sure this time we've got the right piece at the end. So I don't know whether you can see this, but that little corner there is quite sharp. So I want that piece there, whereas I did this and I haven't got that sharp corner there. It's the piece that matches up the top. So we're going to pop that onto there, but we're going to need to tear this. Now I want it to be bigger than that, so I'm going to tear it probably around about here, and it doesn't matter. And what I'm doing is I'm tearing towards myself, because when I tear towards myself, you'll actually get a nice furry edge on the piece we want to keep for our work. And I'm going to tear that also going up, maybe at a slight angle, but that's a little bit too jagged. So let's have a look at that. So that's going to sit on top of that flush. And even though I'm covering up a lot of those clouds, that's okay. Because my idea is we can have our sun in there, bit of an angle, and that piece coming also out there at a bit of an angle. Now, I might tear this down a little bit more. I'm not going to glue anything down yet because we're still I've allowed myself time to work this out. So I want to cut out my chicken and I want to cut out my fences. So let's pop those to one side. Let's cut these pieces out. We'll pop him aside for the card I'm going to do on the weekend. We'll grab pieces here and let's cut our. So we've got our fence palings. Got my die for that. Now, when I stamped those images, I did stamp them using Memento because with the blends, because they're alcohol, you need to use a water-based ink to stamp them. So it's opposite to opposite. So when you're doing watercoloring, you use an alcohol-based ink to stamp your image. So there's that piece there, and we've got one more. going to maybe, before we stamp our chicken, so there's that one as well. And I'm just going to grab a light smoky slate. Excuse me if I bump my camera. I'm sorry. Okay. What I do want to do is just add, I want to take a little bit of the starkness away. And what brought my attention to that is with my pieces here, if I colour that in with a bit of a grey around it, it should just all blend in to my background rather than having white. So I'm just trying to get rid of a little bit of that whiteness. And I should have done this before I die cut it. I'm not worrying about the bottom so much because I did flick my colour out a little bit from the bottom. Let's just do the other one. Sometimes having that white line around is good, but sometimes it's nice just to soften that a bit. And the only thing I am going to do is grab this light one because this one here, it's just not quite flicked out all the way to the bottom. So I'm just going to do that. And then with this one here, I'm just going to go around all those edges there. Just take it out a little bit. We don't want to go so close to your image though, so the grey bleeds into it. You do want to have a little bit of space around it. Don't want to ruin all that work you've just done. Especially if you're using light colours, I can get away with it. A little bit of this bleeds because I've used colours with a bit of depth in it. But if you're using very light colours like your subtles, you've just got to be very careful. You don't want the grey bleeding into it. You want to keep it quite soft. Many years back when I did paper towel, I was told that if you when you cut, because we used to cut everything by hand, we didn't have dyes in those days to cut everything, but we used to run around all the edges with black marker or with a grey marker, just so then the white, even though we cut fairly close to your image, we didn't want that white to show through. So it's a similar sort of thing as that. Just want to have and normally I probably wouldn't worry about this so much, but the fact that I'm actually going on to a solid green and a semi-solid blue background, I really didn't want a lot of that white to show. Now, I need my post-it note tape and the die for the chicken. because I want him to cut out really well, so in close. So I don't want it to move, so I'm just going to cut myself some Post-it note tape here. Because I don't want him to move underneath the die cutting. I think that's all my die cutting done, so I'll pop all of that away. Let's hopefully this is die cut well. Beautiful. Just a little bit of white there, which I'm just going to move with that. And on that tip there as well. Those tips. Because they're going to stand out if I don't. Probably could have had my die up a little bit higher. So what we used to do with paper towel is we used to actually get our pen and run it around all those cut edges. And it just takes off any of that stark white. I'm not going to worry about it so much on this. But with paper towel, because you're doing layer upon layer, so you're getting the image and you're putting another copy of that image the same. Yeah, it was fun doing paper towel, wasn't it, Glenda? I used to enjoy it. I did paper towel once with a photo. So I've got somewhere a scrapbook page with my son when he was little playing, and I paper toweled him, which means getting that photo printed out 6 times or something. I may have only done it 4 though, because I didn't want to do it too much, but it was interesting doing it with a photo rather than with paper. Anyway, I'm just going to burnish that. So now let's have a look at how we go putting this together. So that's going to go onto there eventually. Now, whether we take, that's going to go there. We want the sun to be underneath. Now, somewhere along the line, I've got to put a sentiment on this. Those there. So we could stamp our sentiment onto there, I think. What do you think? Do you think we've got enough? I think I like where I've got that tear. I don't think I'm going to change that. So let's start adhering this all down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere my grass on first, but I'm not going to put any glue at that top area. I'm really only going to put glue up the sides, but I'm not putting anything up the top there. I'm going to make sure we line up all those die cut edges. We want them all lined up. Yep, can't see it from that side. I'm going to pop a bit of glue in there. And then very gently just tuck that in underneath there. And I want that sitting out from like that. And we're going to pop a little bit of glue there, there. Don't need much, just need a little bit. I'm not worrying about the bottom of the weather vane. Try not to get my fingers in there. Okay, and just lift that up and slip that underneath. Just hold those down for a few seconds just to let that here. Doesn't matter going off because it's quite a bit smaller than our card. It's going to be a nice bright card, that's for certain. Hello, Jenny. How are you? Okay. Now I'm going to glue this down, and I'm going to put it at slightly at an angle, and I'm going to come off the page or off the, and I'm just going to glue it straight because at rooster we're going to put dimensionals behind. Just glue behind that. Okay. And then that we're going to sit, he is going to actually cover that join in our fence. But what I might do, I'm going to very, very carefully, because here I can actually see where I've got little white lines, marks in those where I haven't coloured the white. Just want to get rid of all of those. They're going to really stand out. Don't get rid of them. Okay. So let's put our sentiment on. So our sentiments are, you rule the roost, rise and shine. I think I'm going to use, you've got something to crow about, and then I'm going to put it's your birthday on the inside, and I'm going to use early espresso. I could use black because I've got black there, but I've got black in all my stamping, but I want it to sort of stand out. Let me just test a piece. So that's the one I think I want. Well, here's the bit that I tore off. What do you think? I don't think there's that much difference between that and the black, but I think that'll be good. Okay. So we're going to pop that along this bottom edge. And I'm not necessarily putting it in the middle, I'm putting it to one side. Beautiful. Come back to that in a minute. Then we're going to grab some mini dimensionals, put on the back of our chicken. Or I should say rooster, really. And I'm putting quite a few on this one because I just want to make sure that it is going to be nice and secure. Because there's lots of tiny little bits in this, but we're not necessarily putting any dimensionals on those little bits. My nail broke just a few minutes before this live started, so I don't have a big nail there anymore to pick up a lot of that. I'm trying to take the dimensionals off. So I want him to cover up I think about there. Okay. So I hope you can see that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Brother-in-law might get it. He's a farmer. He's got chooks and sheep. And that's going to go on there like that. I don't think one layer is enough. I mean, if I had something else with a pattern or something on the back of it would have been good, but I don't have anything at the moment. So I'm going to keep it as like that. But I might not, I don't think I will. I think I'll just glue it straight down. I was thinking whether I might put dimensionals behind it, but I don't think I will. So that's going to go just about there. And then I've got a piece of basic white here, which is going to go on the inside of my card. Now, I want to decorate this a little bit. But we're going to use a different sentiment. And we're going to put, it's your birthday. Don't have a nail shove underneath that. It's a bit hard to get off. Let's just straighten that up a little bit more. Okay then. Put that there. So again, using the early espresso. I want to put a little bit more in there. How's your husband, Jenny? How's he today? We're just going to very lightly put a little bit of a sky there. Okay, that's good. Okay. I only want to just put a little bit of decoration in there. I don't want to put too much. So just a few little clouds. I don't know whether you can just see that. Unfortunately, I've got a little bit of, I've got my light in a great position, but it flickers. So I hope you can see that there. And then we're just going to adhere that to the inside. Make sure we put this up the right way. So there is our card. Now, of course, the other thing we could put on there, and I'm not quite sure yet whether I will. Let me see if I can find them. is still current is because got a little bit of, so a lot of green area there, but I don't know whether it's just going to be putting too much. So what do you think? Should we put, instead of putting bling, we can put a few little, trying to grab a couple of white ones. What do you think? Put a few of those on there. Just or not. Yay or nay, as it's getting too much. So that's without. I tend to like it without. I think I'm going to leave it off. And I'm going to leave my card like that. I think sometimes I can get a little bit too carried away. And I'm going to say that is that. It is a fun card, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed playing with my little chicken. So, or my rooster. And I'm going to colour in the other two that I've got. I actually only need one more, so I'm going to colour in, choose which one out of the last two that I've stamped off and colour it in. And so that's the other colour we were looking at. And then just so then you can see what else I've done, I've coloured in this one as well. But I don't know yet whether I'm going to use that one because I've still got these two to work on. So that's this afternoon's projects. And see what I come up with for a blog hop that I've got happening in about a week's time. So I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you very much for joining me. Now all these products are available in my online store. So if you don't have a demonstrator and you want to purchase any of these, of course you can through my online store if you live here in Australia. And you'll find that at michellejutrissa.stampinup.net. Okay, take care, have a lovely day, and we'll see you next Tuesday. And you join me in the evening at 7:30 here Australia time. Thank you very much. Bye for now.